Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us again. So today's title is Every Day You Are Managing Someone, you might have a challenging dialogue, and that's a good thing. And the reason for that is that challenging dialogues are the way forward. One thing that is hardwired into us as human beings is our need to connect and to be part of a tribe, of a community, of some kind of protective society that is going to, to help you survive in the world. This goes all the way back to, when we were fire starters, when we were learning how to do the most basic things to cooperate with each other. And what else is hardwired into us is the need to get along, right? Because once you lose status in a group, this is going to, this is a possible life ending event for you. You lose the support of the group and you find yourself on the outside and you're subject to all kinds of threats. So this has never left us. This is just part of our hardwiring. And it's something that we need to work with, especially in a work situation, because the way we get the best out of each other, the way we collaborate, the way we create together is by having challenging dialogues, by telling the truth, even unpopular truths. It's the way we get the job done. And if you don't get all the ideas and opinions that are out there in your team to the table, you're missing out on the opportunities for genius. And
Mhm.
that's a messy process. Um, so, healthy conflict is truly the way forward, and learning how to navigate in a healthy conflict and determine what a healthy conflict looks like is really the core message in this training today. Beth, do you want to add anything to that?
The only thing I want to add is that now, particularly now when we are immersed in uncertainty, right? We are just completely surrounded by not knowing on so many levels. Not knowing, are we going back to work? Are we safe? What's our economic status? Are our kids okay? Are our families okay? I don't have to tell you what the unknowing is about because it's surrounding us. And when we're in that places when we most easily go to that primal fight or flight place, our amygdala is taking in millions of bits of stimuli all day long. And our brain is designed, our amygdala is designed to take that incoming stimuli and categorize it. And the two clearest paths are things that are okay and safe and things that I need to fight or flight about. And so our brain is pretty lazy and it loves a shortcut. So anytime it can shortcut it into a category without taking a pause to really do some self coaching, which is what we're going to talk about, and some thinking about the stimuli, there's a really good chance when we're feeling vulnerable that we are either going to pull away and retract or we're going to come out fighting and defending. And so we're hopeful that the content today is going to give you some tools so that you can self coach yourself in this process and you can engage with really healthy conflict, which is going to be the root of innovation, creativity, navigating this whole time of uncertainty and leading effectively. So I love this topic.
And me too. It's a favorite of mine. Um, so healthy versus unhealthy conflict. I want to say that, we do not like conflict, for all the reasons I mentioned before. Avoiding conflict is a way to survive. And having conflict is also a way that people cement their status, that they are able to become alpha, as the way they are able to dominate,
Mhm.
etc. So conflict is one of those things that, it either makes you expand, which is like, going on the defense, being aggressive, being, forward in a way that kind of that suppresses other people, versus people who shrink or hide. Those are the people who try to get along. They try to placate. They withhold what they are thinking or want to say in in uh, in the hopes that it will allow them to stay in the good graces of, the more dominant forces in the room. So talking about healthy versus unhealthy conflict. In simple terms, healthy conflict is the kind of conversations that you have, even heated ones, that move things forward. It moves ideas forward. It leads to breakthroughs. Information is exposed and you're able to do something new or decide something new as a result of this information, even if it's unpopular, right? So unhealthy conflict is about winning and losing. So like I said, it's about, people, having dominance and versus people who are not dominant any longer. It's also about keeping a conversation stagnant, right? Which is another way of trying to win by not allowing a conversation to go forward. So if you've ever been in the situation where there's one person in the room that even though everyone else has agreed on something, they continue to bring up a point that has already been argued and put aside, that is an unhealthy conflict. And it shows an unwillingness of a person to be part of a communal decision. How do you do that? How do you get to those having a healthy conflict that moves you forward versus unhealthy conflict? It has to do with building trust. You have to have enough trust in your team, in the people surround you, in the people who have authority or leadership, that you can say something unpopular. So Beth, do you want to add to that?
Well, I run into people all the time when I'm doing this work with teams to help them understand how to be able to have healthy conflict. And there's always someone or a couple someone's in the room, and I bet some of you recognize them, or maybe they are you, who say, I love conflict. I just love conflict. But what they really are saying when I burrow down into their understanding is what they're saying is, I love to convince people that I'm right. I love to win. I love to show that my way is the best way. And that is not healthy conflict. When Sasha talks about trust, for me, a big piece of what comes up in that is emotional safety. The emotional safety to be able to express your opinion and know that your ideas aren't going to be ridiculed. They're not going to be slammed down. You're not going to be talked over, but we're going to each listen with curiosity to hear what everybody's saying, because healthy conflict is the friction out of which new ideas, new innovative ways, new perspectives get exploded and blown up. When I'm ever in a conversation where healthy conflict is taking place and ideas are being exchanged, and sometimes it feels uncomfortable, I so often leave with a new view, a new perspective, a new way of thinking. And whatever I came in with as my opinion has now just gotten so much bigger and better, and my thinking has grown. So yeah, trust. How do we get to that place when we're getting ready to have a dialogue that's going to have conflict?
Well, Beth, we've said it often, is like trust is built one conversation at a time and one behavior at a time. It is something that even, you've said you can trust people at a certain level, like not to snatch your wallet off your desk, but, deeper, more important levels of trust are built through exposure, by listening to others, and being willing to, make small bets on, whether or not they are going to show up in a way that is consistent and trustworthy. Um, so how do you get there? So one of our adages also is that the only person you can control is yourself. You can only control your own behaviors. You can only control your own words. And in the moment, sometimes we feel pretty heated about an idea. We feel pretty, spiked. We feel like, our emotions rise, our adrenaline is there, all those physical responses that happen when we feel there is something dangerous going to happen. And even if that dangerous is just at an intellectual level, it is attached to your emotions, and it is just as poignant as if you're in a genuinely physically threatening situation. So the thing that we teach that to fall back to is self-coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Self-coaching, having that conversation with yourself. Starting with the most basic thing you can do is checking in with your body. Checking in with your body, taking a moment to take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to feel gravity attaching you to the earth, feeling your feet on the floor. If you're sitting in a chair, feeling the weight of your body in the chair, and just taking a moment to feel your physical body. And then asking yourself the questions that help bring you back to what is real, what is fact-based, what is really happening now, not what you think is happening, not the story you're telling about what's happening. So Beth, we have some self-coaching questions. Would you like to talk about those a little bit and why they're important questions to ask?
I would love to. So the first one is, what emotions am I bringing to this conversation? And I just cannot talk more about how important it is to take a pause before you're getting ready to engage in a conversation and think about that. Um, we show up with all kinds of emotions and they get transferred. We've talked about that. If you've done any work with us, your emotions get transferred just like a virus, if I may be so bold as to say that, from person to person. And so when your emotions are not in congruence with how you're intending to show up, people pick up on that and they get curious, and it's hard to trust because it feels chaotic to them. Something feels off. So you're showing up trying to be calm, cool, and collected. And meanwhile, your emotions are, what are they going to say? Are they going to fight me? Am I not going to get my way? Are people going to think this is a stupid idea? Are they going to resist this? Are they going to be mad at me? Are they not going to like me? And so you've got to take some time and go work through all those thoughts to get to clarity. Which leads to the second question, which is, what assumptions or biases do I have? And when you get the handout, these questions are going to be on it. And I recommend you print that out. And anytime you're getting ready to have a challenging dialogue, it's challenging because you feel some energy in your stomach. You feel some hesitation. You feel some stories come up. You feel all that happening. And I'm encouraging you to literally write the answers to these questions so you can get to a clear and clean place. This is the self-coaching. What assumptions and biases do I have, right? So you're getting ready to have a meeting with your accounting people, perhaps, right? You're in a different department. You're like, oh, they're going to be, they're not going to be understanding. They're going to think I'm an idiot because I don't have a good handle on numbers. One of my daughters last night was waiting and waiting because her employer was having a phone call, right? Got everybody together and said, let's have a Zoom session on Monday night. She's kind of eager to find out, when are they going to work? When are they going to reopen? What's going to happen? He did not tell them that what he was planning was kind of a happy hour. He wasn't having the meeting to share information, right? So a whole bunch of people who are assuming one thing's going to happen, and he's assuming another thing's going to happen. So for you to get clarity on your assumptions, and then that leads to the next one, which is what shoulds and unspoken expectations do I have that I'm assuming everybody else is in agreement with? So if he had said, hey, guys, let's all get together and do a happy hour on Monday night, I miss you and I just want to check in, then people would have known what mindset to show up in. But, you know, she talked about how it took a little while for her to kind of settle into being in the moment because she was expecting, you know, her unspoken was she was expecting a whole different piece of information. So what shoulds do you have? What are you thinking the other person should do as a result of your conversation? What are you thinking they should already believe? And what unspoken expectations do you have that you're assuming everybody else is already in agreement with? And then the last one that Sasha talks about, which is so important, it just goes back to that, is what energy am I bringing? And this involves taking those 3 seconds, or if you have enough time, it could be 3 minutes, in between transitions, in between conversations, to just ground your feet on the floor. Listen to the beat of your heart. Get clean and clear on what your facts are that you're going to be talking about. And prepare yourself to show up. We talk about this so much in the physical in office or in school or whatever environment you're in, the physical running from meeting to meeting, having people popping in on other people, and we don't take the pause. It's also important in this remote communication way to take the pause, to take the transition, to bring your energy back to center, back to balance, and be totally in the present moment and focused on the here and now, so you're not dragging everything else into the room with you. So those are the 4 shortcut questions. What emotion am I bringing? What assumptions or biases am I bringing? What shoulds and unspoken expectations do I have that I'm assuming everybody else has too? And what energy am I bringing? And those will be on the handout with the explanations.
I mean, those are such important questions to ask to determine what is actual fact, what is true right now, as opposed to what we believe should be true, what we assume other people are thinking, all of those things, all that stuff that is happening up here, right? It is all this stuff that we're assuming. It has nothing necessarily to do with what is an actual fact. Always, always, always fall back to the facts.
So, Sasha, if I may, I just want to talk for 1 second about why we avoid having these types of conversations, because I think it's really important to get to the nugget of why do we resist them?
Yeah, let's do it.
The biggest reason we resist these is because we have a story that we don't want to offend other people. We don't want to hurt other people's feelings. We want to protect them. So many times, instead of having a direct dialogue, instead of having a tough conversation, instead of having what might be a healthy conflict, instead we avoid it and we create workarounds. And we've all seen that happen. This is my favorite story. I walked into an office building where the CEO was having a really hard time with staff and morale was really down. And I walked up to the front desk and the woman at the front desk didn't even look up at me. She just kept doing what she was doing. And then a side door to the foyer opened and it said accounting on the door. And a woman came running out and she's like, oh, can I help you? And I said, I'm here to see so-and-so. And she's like, okay. And she ran back behind the door and Then pretty soon he came walking down, and the woman at the front desk, who appeared to be the receptionist, never really even spoke to me or acknowledged me. And so when we got up to his office, I said, "Can you help me understand what's happening with that?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, that's so and so. She's been here a really long time, and she's the receptionist, but she's not great with people. And so we have so and so who does accounts payable. She has a little camera on her desk. So when someone comes in the front door, she runs out and greets them." I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. So why don't you talk to the receptionist about this? Why don't you have a dialogue? I don't want to upset her. I don't want to hurt her feelings. She's been here a really long time. It's just easier to do this whole workaround. And I'm thinking, easier for who? And if you want to have a conversation why there's conflict and why there's low morale, it's because you, not them, he wanted me to fix his staff. He needs to understand how to have tough dialogue in a healthy way, because his workaround is creating anger and resentment within the team. We see this all the time. It's one of the biggest things we work with managers and leaders on, is being able to step into having healthy, direct conversations with people. And so when people say, "I don't want to do it because I don't want to hurt their feelings, I say, no, you don't want to do it because you're protecting yourself, because you don't want to experience the discomfort that may get generated through this dialogue. And it is through discomfort that people grow. If we as managers and leaders allow people to stay in comfort by creating all these workarounds, nothing's ever going to be different. We are enabling them to stay exactly the same way they are. Well, meanwhile, we hope that they're going to get hints, they're going to get the message, they're going to get motivated somehow to make a change, and they're not going to. It's not going to happen 90% of the time. So our goal is to help you step into having the tough conversation by sifting out all the stuff that's up here that's keeping you from having it, and getting you to the point where you can identify what is real, what are the facts I want to talk about, what is the way that I can say them with empathy and compassion, and then how do we move on from here? And the person goes and has their experience, whatever that is. Disappointment, anger, whatever the case is. So I'm hopeful that this has been helpful to you in some way, Sasha.
So the one last point we want to ask is, because how you do one thing is how you do everything,
Right.
is to really ask yourself, when these things come up, how does this show up in other areas of your life? It's very easy to look at your work situation and just say, oh, everything would be perfect if it wasn't for work. But these things have a sneaky way of showing up in other areas of your life. So if you really want to master this, if you really want to get good at this, look at where these kinds of avoidance situations of avoiding dialogues is showing up at home, with your friends, with those situations like, oh my God, it's Christmas time again. We always do this one, we always have a Christmas party, but afterwards I am exhausted. I would really rather not, but everybody else is looking forward to it. How could you, say that in a way that perhaps changes things, maybe makes things better for you, and perhaps even find out the truth about how other people feel about the situation. So you can change, evolve, do something different, do something better, at least try something different.
Because the longer you hold it back and the longer you sit on it, all you're creating is anger and resentment. Anger towards yourself and anger and resentment towards other people. And so stepping into these dialogues and having them is critical for us to be able to move forward and do the work that we do in really clean and clear ways. Sasha, we have some questions, right?
We do have some questions. So I want to remind everybody that in the chat, you can get the link for downloading this recording as well as the handout we're going to be sending out this afternoon. Also, if you have questions and you didn't put them in when you registered, now would be a great time to add the questions to the form. But we have some that were turned in early. So let's roll. Question number 1. How do we solicit real feedback from employees? Make them comfortable enough, trust enough that we can cut to what is real.
So for this, I'm going to say, let's go to question number 2 for self-coaching. What assumptions and biases do I have? So when you enter into a dialogue with an opinion about what the truth is on the front end, you're not entering it from a place of curiosity. You're entering it from a place of, you already know. That's what I'm hearing in that question. I know, maybe you don't know what the answers are, but you're already in a place of knowing that they should be different than what you're hearing, and people should show up differently. So I'm encouraging you to begin from a place of open curiosity, understanding that trust is built one interaction at a time and one engagement at a time, one activity at a time. So in that moment, you need to start from the place of, okay, I'm going to ask for feedback from these people, and I'm going to believe what they tell me, and use some curiosity questions. You might say, oh, thank you. Could you say a little more about that? Oh, thank you. Could you give me an example of when you've seen that happening? Oh, thank you. Could you explain that just in a little bit different way so that you're continually helping them to open up a little more? And with every interaction, they're seeing that you are not going to try and tell them that the truth is different than what they're telling you, that their experience is different from what they're sharing. And it takes time. It takes time, because even if you have never been the manager or the leader who asks for feedback and then immediately slams the person down like spiking the ball over the volleyball net, even if you've never been that person, they potentially have had experiences with that person in the past. And so it's going to take them a little while. But really just being fully present, engaging from curiosity, and letting go of whatever you have for assumptions, biases, or shoulds before you engage.
Yeah, and I just say in this field, consistency is key. It's not enough to do this once. You have to do this every single time, engaging with curiosity and letting the person know that they are heard. And so that is how you start that process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we ready for the next one?
I am.
Okay, fantastic, me too. What is the best way to handle an evaluation where the individual rates themselves much higher than their actual ability?
Oh.
That never happens.
Never happens.
Never happens.
You accept it. That's the data. If you go and read the data on employees rating themselves or anybody rating themselves, we consistently rate ourselves higher than we are actually performing. It's a fact. It is a tried and true fact. It's why when the doctor says, hey, how many glasses of wine do you have a day? And you say 2, he writes down, or she writes down 4, because we alter our data. We have a confirmation bias We want to believe that what we're saying is true. We want to believe our own story. And 90% of the population rates themselves higher. That's okay. Ask curious questions. And Sasha, I'm super interested to hear your take on this because we may have two different perspectives. I don't know. But I would go into the curious questions around that. I would say, okay, great. I see that you gave yourself this rating on this. Let's talk through it. Tell me what you specifically see that you do really well in this. And where do you see opportunities for growth? If you're doing performance evaluations that are not ongoing conversations throughout the whole entire year, and I know a lot of you on here are like state employees or whatever, you don't get to pick your performance management tool. But if you are not having ongoing coaching conversations throughout the year with your employees, that's what you're going to get. The moment of conflict, when someone rates themselves higher than you do once a year, and it creates conflict and mistrust for the whole rest of the year, because the performance evaluation doesn't come, you can tell I get hot about this topic. I apologize, but I don't. The performance evaluation doesn't help develop and build your people and empower them. It instead becomes a he said, she said, or she said, or they said, or whatever it is, dialogue about who's right, who's wrong, who understands, who doesn't, every time. Sasha, save me
So
myself on this topic.
So a way to reframe performance evaluations is a kind of gap analysis, right? So when Beth was talking about giving continuous feedback, this is a way to manage the gap between what a person perceives about their performance and what is real about their performance, talking about real things that happen, how much or how well they delivered on their responsibilities, how well they adhered to social norms of the company, all the things that make the work world function, right? So it's a kind of gap analysis. And so the worst scenario is, of course, doing this one time a year. The person hasn't been keeping track of what they've been doing. They haven't been keeping a diary or whatever. And so whatever it is that happens behind door number 3 is this big surprise package of whatever. And because it's waited a whole year, the manager is dreading this moment. There's actually a study that says that managers would rather have a root canal than give a performance evaluation because of the it's like you can gauge the discomfort of a root canal, but you cannot predict the discomfort that will happen when you give somebody a performance review, and it is wildly different than what that person's self-perception is. So key fact number 1, give continuous feedback, right? Make that a thing. Make sure that the gap between what their understanding of performance is and what their real performance is like, there's no light going between those two things. Make sure that they always know where they stand. 2, don't just do this once a year. Keep it continuous. And 3, when you have the performance and the feedback that they have about themselves and what you have to say about them are different, start with curiosity and ask them, why do they believe the things that they do? Just in a curious way. You can have a conversation and see, well, gee, I really thought that, that it was no big deal about turning this report in late. I didn't think it was being very, used or whatever. It didn't seem useful. And you may learn something about the tasks that they're doing and find out, based on what they're saying, maybe we can shift and adjust this because this is not a punitive process. Hopefully you will be learning from that person as well, making it a two-way valuable conversation as opposed to something that you'd rather, have a root canal over.
And the other challenge on this is that when we go in and do performance improvement plan coaching, which sometimes we do employees who are really struggling and leadership doesn't know what to do with them, blah, all that stuff. Frequently we'll say, okay, tell me about the last few performance evaluations. And the leader says, oh, yeah, I just marked like satisfactory the whole way down the list. And I'm like, really? Because you're telling me it hasn't been so satisfactory. And they're like, oh, yeah, but, you know, we're backed up on those and we only have 3 options. And, you know, I wanted to get them done and da da da. And so it really limits the employee's opportunity to improve based on facts and the leader's ability to really make too many changes without a hefty investment now in performance improvement. So you're kind of starting on crumbling footing when you're not doing this coaching, year-long coaching and having conversations about performance.
Okay, last we have one in the chat,
Wait,
but
one in the
let's
chat.
let's get to this last one that was brought in with registration.
Yep.
What do you do when you are seeing red? I may not always be able to duck into the ladies' room.
No.
Oh boy.
I know. That's a great question.
That is a great question.
Yeah, because it's true. So what literally is happening, like physiologically is happening when you are seeing red? This is what navigating challenging dialogue is about. This is what we teach in our trainings. If you go online to the free primer class that we have, that's 18 minutes long, you're going to learn about this. It is what's literally happening when you're seeing red is your amygdala is telling your brain that you are at risk. Now, back in the day when saber-tooth tiger was going to eat your baby, you were physically at risk, right? Your life was at risk. But we've mitigated many of those risks, except for now, here we are in a time when we're kind of on the cusp of that again. But for the most part, we've mitigated a lot of those risks. And the risks that you're feeling are to things like reputation, ego, sense of self, authority, all of those types of things. So in that moment when you are seeing red, it means that your fight or flight is getting triggered. You're emotionally having a reaction. We call it, in navigating challenging dialogue, we call it the emotional hotspot. The only thing you can do in that moment, it's so simple, but it requires hacking your brain, because the fight or flight side of your brain has taken the driver's wheel. It is in control. It's when people slam down laptops and leave the room. It's when people call somebody else an idiot in a meeting. That's what happens. Or when you shrink and in your head you're going, yeah, I'm not participating anymore. You shrink to that point. The only thing you can do is ground your feet on the floor. Take in oxygen through your nostrils, because you want to bring in the amount of oxygen that your lungs can process without feeling overwhelmed. You breathe through your mouth and your lungs are like, oh my God, too much oxygen coming. I can't process it. And it goes to another whole panic zone. I'm dying. It literally does. All these things happen inside. In through your nostrils, down into your lungs, and on the exhale, allowing yourself to let go of tension and simply listening for the beat of your heart. Even if you can't hear it, pretending you can, imagining it. You can do this without anybody seeing you, without anybody noticing you. See, so I'm not saying make a big announcement and go, hold on, please. I need to go through a process. I just did it. I just completely did it. And the more you practice that, the more you do it in advance of needing in an emergency. But the minute you start feeling that coming on, whatever the symptoms are for you, feeling red, feeling your stomach going, feeling tension coming your chest, feeling your heartbeat raise, feeling your palms sweat, feeling like you want to slam down your laptop and get to the ladies' room as fast as possible, that all means that the oxygen-rich blood has stopped going to the side of your brain that's about empathy, collaboration, curiosity, and it's all going to the I need to get out of here or I need to fight for my life. And you have the ability to calm that down. It's a choice that you can make. It's a very profound choice. And if you can learn to recognize it and you can learn that tool and you can learn to do it, you're going to be golden. And if you go to the website, bethwonson.com, there's a link under resources and there's a heart meditation. It's less than 10 minutes long. You can just, it's a visualization. You can follow that 3 times, maybe download it on your phone, and you will understand how to ninja right into that whenever you need to.
Yeah, the key is really just awareness of like catching it the first moment that you feel it and doing those interventions as soon as you can, because your body is seeking relief. And I'm telling you, there is nothing as in the moment when your adrenaline is up, slamming, yelling, saying something caustic, running out of the room, those things are just like a way for the energy to get directed. And if you can bring yourself back to center through breathing and through just a little mindfulness, you have saved everybody in the room.
Yeah.
So, and it's a matter of practice. And it's like, I would be lying if I said, even in the last year, that I haven't seen red and have taken the direct path through my mouth to saying something I wish I hadn't said.
Well, it happens for
It
one
still happens.
reason, because we're human. That's the only reason it happens, because we're human. That's it.
Yeah.
Not because we're good or bad, because we're human.
It's a practice. It is definitely a practice. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And sometimes it isn't going to come to your rescue. Okay, so we have one in the chat. So how do you recommend trying to get your upper management on board with this? In our work environment, it tends to be the receptionist scenario you discussed, or they find lesser level of work because something is better than nothing is a mentality, not holding them accountable for doing their job.
Well, I have a super simple solution, which is to have us do consulting. That's like way number one, which is the easiest way. I also believe firmly that, you know, a lot of people just don't understand. They just have not been taught that we can speak our truth with empathy and compassion and a focus on the good of the whole, and that the earth is not going to open up, the sky is not going to come crumbling down. And when we do speak our truth, which I prefer to use that than the term hold people accountable, because the term holding people accountable assumes that we have power over people. Like there's a way to manipulate them into doing what they need to do. And as a true manager and leader who is trying to step out of being exhausted and overburdened and hating leading and managing, holding the space and giving people the information to do the right thing and to do what needs to be done for the good of the whole is the pathway. And at the same time, understanding that there are natural and logical consequences for not doing what's in the best interest of the good of the whole. So if in your scenario, let's use the receptionist, right? If the mission of the organization, if the top goal of the organization is solid customer service, making people feel welcome and engaging people to do business with your company through that, and that leads to higher profit margin, and it leads to more repeat work, and those are all part of the top goals. Helping the receptionist to understand how her or his or their performance in their position supports the achievement of that goal. And when their behaviors are not aligned with what's necessary to achieve that goal, then there's some natural logical consequences, right? One is they might not get to do that work anymore. One is it might be time to move on. And they have choice. Another choice is that they get support and they learn how to do the job effectively, including the behaviors that are required to achieve the goal. So how do you get your upper management on board with this? Let's, invite them to do a phone call with Sasha and I, and let us help to understand. And you role model the behavior you desire in others and help to explain why you're using that behavior, why that's what you're modeling. I could talk about that one for a really long period of time, and I'm really hopeful that that's helpful. And I want to encourage everyone to take advantage of, there is a free 18-minute workshop that you can share with your staff that they can take online so they can get the core components of this. They can do it, at their own leisure. And Sasha and I check in and answer questions and things as people are going through it. And there's also some longer versions that are actual courses that people can take. So I encourage you to look at those resources and share them with people. But you modeling those behaviors and then having people get curious about what you're doing differently is way number one to get people interested.
So Beth, that is it. Those are our questions. What is the name of the 18-minute workshop?
It's the Navigating Challenging Dialogue Primer, and you can find it on the, I think, Andrea, are you here? I think it's NCD Process website. I can make sure.
Oh yeah, it's ncdprocess.com. If you go there, it's right there on the splash page. You can just go and get it.
I think it just auto-corrected me, trying to enter ncdprocess.com. I'm trying to put it in the chat.
There you go. Andrea put it in for us.
Oh, yay. She's
Thanks.
the best. She's the best. Okay, cool.
All right.
Oh my God, we might even finish on time, which is going to be slightly shocking for us. I'm really proud of that. Does anybody else have a question or something they're hoping we were going to address that we didn't get to? I don't see anything coming up.
Nope.
I'm really excited that that people are finding this of value, and it's just part of kind of our rallying cry as we're navigating through this time, is to be of service, to help people to be able to show up in the best way they can, to be able to work with their staff and have the least amount of burden that you can have with everything else going on. We are so honored and thrilled to connect with you and that you're spending this time with us. And we hope that you'll share this with folks. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks so much for hosting and sharing. Thanks for these webinars. They've been great. We certainly are honored to be part of your day. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
Yep, looking forward to the next one. Take care, guys. Thank you.